Hey, what's up, everybody? BDL44 coming at you another video. All right, in this particular video, we're talking about the Celtics and the Cavaliers. As the Cavaliers are going to be playing against the Celtics tomorrow in Boston at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, I believe it is, the first game of tomorrow's slate of games. And want to make sure I get my prediction out before that tips off. So I did a little homework on those two teams in terms of the series that they had throughout the course of the regular season. Back in mid-December, they played one another back-to-back. Boston was able to take both of those games, and a lot has changed. Of course, a good portion of the season, um, Evan Mobley missed time, so did Darius Garland. So in these two matchups, I believe Evan Mobley was out. I don't know if Garland was out or not. I didn't really pay close enough attention to the stats there to see, but I know for a fact Mobley was not available. And the Celtics took care of business. In the third matchup, Dean Wade had a massive game later on down the road, I think in March, somewhere in there, and was able to squeeze out a victory by one against the Boston Celtics. So the series ended 2-1 Boston. And because of how it was slated, these teams didn't really see each other that much, and it was kind of like a little quick flurry type thing. So I expect that this will be a feel-out game tomorrow. These teams need to learn one another and what they're using. Obviously, Porzingis being out, expected not to return till the 19th, which is a week and a half from now. So he could possibly miss this entire series, depending on how it goes. I'm not really sure how to look at that because I do see some good sides there for the Boston Celtics, even without Porzingis. Obviously, not the talent level, but you talk about guys like Cornette and Brissett and Kada and Tillman. There's plenty of talent there with length. Of course, Al Horford is down there as well. They're not hurting for length, even without Porzingis on the floor. So they're going to miss his talent, but as far as rebounding and stuff like that, they should, in theory, have enough to throw at those twin towers in Allen and Mobley. Now, Mobley is out there, but Allen missed a good portion of the last series. I don't know if he's going to be back or not. It says that he should, in theory, be back tomorrow, but I don't really know. We'll see. It's probably a game time decision at this point. Cleveland Cavaliers are also missing some key players. Craig Porter, I think Dean Wade, all of these guys are out or expected to miss the beginning of this series, if not more. So that's something to consider. But they do have the rest of what they have down there. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell and Isaac Okoro and Caris LeVert, Tristan Thompson is available. Max Strus is available. So it's going to be a good portion of what you would hope to see if you're a Cleveland Cavaliers team going up against this Boston Celtics squad. Of course, the series starts in Boston, clearly, because the Boston Celtics have the best record in the entire league, which has clinched home court throughout the course of their playoff run. Against the Boston Celtics, took very easy care of the Miami Heat. They won that series in 5. It wasn't really all that close. After they did lose that initial game 2, they just blew them out in all 3 of the last couple of games. Of course, Miami was severely undermanned with no Jimmy, and of course Rozier was also missing a good portion of that series, and etc. So it was an easy series for the Boston Celtics, even without Porzingis. It was not really an issue. Meanwhile, the Cleveland Cavaliers just completed their series against the Orlando Magic, where they were able to take care of them in 7 games after being down by 10 at halftime of Game 7. They came back and had a flurry of successful defensive sequences in the second half that just put them in a position to really have a nice win there. I had picked Orlando in 7, so I was a little frustrated watching the second half of that game, feeling like my prediction was looking great at halftime, and then Orlando just fell flat. But I do think that this is going to be a much better series than the Magic Celtics series would have been. But it is what it is, man. Cleveland does move on, and here they are. Their fans were screaming, "We want Boston." Well, you got them, and I don't think that's a good thing because you got to deal with that team. And Miami was screaming for him too. We saw how it went for them. This is just not the time to be facing the Boston Celtics, who are entirely too talented this season. Even without Kristaps Porzingis, they still got like 3 or 4 all-stars they're throwing at you at any given moment. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, obviously, we know who they are. They've been with this team their entire careers. They've paid their dues, and they're ready to win. They've been to the finals. They didn't win that finals matchup against the Golden State Warriors a couple years back. They're trying to get back there, try to see if they can have better success this year and capture championship number 18. And the Cleveland Cavaliers are standing in their way. And, I think the Cavaliers can make the series out of this. I really do. I think the Boston Celtics have shown chinks in their armor, to be honest with you, given the fact that they did drop that second game to the Miami Heat, the fact that they did have some losses throughout the course of the season, that just kind of showed them not, to kind of be leaning more so on the talent of their roster and not necessarily the betterment of strategy and mental toughness and things like that. I don't look at this as the most mentally tough team. They're just overly, souped up. You got guys like Peyton Pritchard off the bench, Sam Hauser. Those guys are shooting the ball extremely well. So you got the fact that those particular players play right into the system that ultimately their coach wants to run, which is shoot the 3 ball at all costs. Al Horford can stretch the floor, of course, even with Porzingis out, who could also obviously do that when he gets back. Jaylen Brown tends to shoot the ball a little hot and cold, but he has the green light at all times. And of course, Jason Tatum is superstar in this league. So you talk about Derek White and Drew Holiday, 2 of the best two-way basketball players at the guard spot you're going to find on this planet. They're both playing at a very high level, especially Derek White, who really had a fantastic series against the Miami Heat. You just see talent up and down this team. Even a guy like Svi Mykhailiuk, who played for my Lakers back in the day, I know what he can do. He's a developing player who has a lot of potential, in my opinion, to do good things. So you're looking at the Boston Celtics is the best team in the league right now. And I think this is going to be an extremely difficult series for the Cleveland Cavaliers, but because of how Donovan Mitchell's been playing, because of the high-level potential of a guy like, Evan Mobley and how well he's been able to kind of get his offense going in the last series, he looked pretty good on both sides of the floor. Bringing back Allen, hopefully he'll be 100% for them, and they'll really have that dynamic that can rebound the ball and, of course, protect the paint and make things difficult for this team to kind of get in the paint and really dominate like otherwise they would like to, because they can really score in the paint and shoot the 3. The Boston Celtics can with their talent. They don't find themselves being deficient in pretty much from anywhere on the floor on the offensive end. So Isaac Okoro, a fantastic defensive player that you could consider. They'll have to kind of throw on Jaylen Brown at times and kind of rotate around, try to guard Derek White. But at the end of the day, the real problem for the Cleveland Cavaliers is just having so many different things to try to have to account for with this Boston Celtics team that really probably doesn't have too many weaknesses offensively. You have the defensive players, but will they be able to stop what's coming at them? Derek White, if he's going to go for 30 points, how do you stop the Celtics? Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are definitely going to get theirs. Can you kind of expose some of those weaknesses that may be available to you and exploit them, rather? It's going to be the question for that Cleveland Cavalier defense. Can you force Jason Tatum into some tough shots and being a jump shot Jason Tatum? Can you steal the ball from Jaylen Brown to take advantage of some of his ball handling deficiencies? These are the type of things. Can you force Drew Holiday into some 5 for 17 shooting nights? That's going to be the question. And what concerns me about the Cleveland Cavaliers is just how defensive those guards are on their end, the Boston Celtics end, to try to slow down the major strength of the Cleveland Cavaliers, which is Garland and Mitchell. Are Garland and Mitchell going to have some off nights because of who's guarding them? That's going to be the question. And so you don't really get to impose your will if you're the Cavaliers like you would want to, because of Drew Holiday and Derek White down there just locking people up. So it's going to be incumbent upon the Caris LeVerts and Isaac Okoro's and Evan Mobley, they're going to have to account for a little more scoring than they probably want to. Max Strus is going to have to play extremely well, which I expect that he will. Playoff time. He comes from that Miami Heat culture. He's fit in pretty well with this Cleveland team. He's going to be a very important player on both sides of the floor. Can he get stops against guys like Jason Tatum? And can he get stops against Jaylen Brown? Can he slow down Sam Hauser off the bench? Like, this is going to be important. Peyton Pritchard's ability to stretch the floor is going to be deadly. We know that. He can shoot from 40 feet away very comfortably. The little dude is just growing by the second, and any moment he could drop 5 threes on your head off the bench. So just the firepower of the Boston Celtics is what concerns me, especially given the fact that the Cleveland Cavaliers had real issues with the Orlando Magic, who really did have scoring droughts that I did not suspect the Boston Celtics would have any trouble with themselves. So, that's what it really comes down to. I think Cleveland is up against it, but Donovan Mitchell is such a high-level player, and Darius Garland as well, both all-stars in this league. If they can get massive series out of those guys, I think they can really make a series out of this thing. Mitchell's going to be Mitchell. You expect for him to be unbelievable no matter who's guarding him, no matter what the circumstance. He's so strong. He's a big player on both sides of the floor. Can get into the paint at will, gets to the line a lot, and I think that's going to be a very key thing for this Cleveland Cavalier team. Can they get Mitchell to draw fouls against these fantastic guards and kind of expose maybe Peyton Pritchard a bit more, put him on the floor a little more, have to deal with him, and maybe force yourself into some situations where you can score over Peyton Pritchard, given the fact that he's slight of stature. Because you don't want to have to deal with 40 minutes of Drew Holiday. You don't want to deal with 40 minutes of Derek White. So can you get those other guards to be on the floor? Can you see a little more Svi Mykhailiuk and try to score in spurts when those bench players are on the floor? Because when those starters are out there, the Boston Celtics are pretty much it's damn near impossible, The matchups are interesting though. I think Evan Mobley, when you consider his ability to move side to side at a fast pace while simultaneously being as long and tall as Anthony Davis, I think that could really help them up against Jason Tatum. I think you could switch a lot of things with those type of players down there. Isaac Okoro being so good defensively and such a slasher, and having the ability to hit the three, which is going to be very important in this series. I think that could be helpful against this Celtics team. That's why I think a series is going to be made out of this thing, because I do see key role players that played two-way basketball for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and I think that is exactly what you need to throw at the Boston Celtics, who pretty much got the exact same thing. So that's really what comes to mind. You're going to need some guys to play above what you would expect. Isaac Okoro, Max Strus, Caris LeVert, they all got to play at a high level every night. Allen, he's come back fresh, blocking shots, catching lobs, hitting free throws and things like that. They must get the free ones out of this Boston team. If you go into the line, then you can't have bad free throw lights, because they're going to definitely hit theirs. They're one of the better free throw shooting teams in the league, and they're just not going to allow for many errors out there in regards to that. So I think whoever controls the boards can get far in this series. You got to take advantage of the fact that Porzingis is not out there. Try to win the games that you can before he gets back. I do believe he probably will return if this series goes 6 or 7 or something like that. He'll probably be available. So if you're the Cleveland Cavaliers, if you could steal one on the road, that will go a long way in making this a series, to say the least. So yeah, that's kind of what it is, man. I think it's obvious at this point that most people would pick the Celtics to win this series. But when you have a big player like Donovan Mitchell on the floor, magical things can happen. And Darius Garland is such a fantastic guard himself that, if they both clicking at the same time, they could probably steal that game. Whatever that game is, they're probably going to steal it. But I just look at matchups and I say that they got probably two of the worst possible matchups for those guards that you're going to find in this entire league. If your strength is to throw two all-star guards out there the last thing you want to have to deal with for 7 games is Derek White and Drew Holiday. That's what it really comes down to. And it's a tough matchup because of that, and a guy like Al Horford is so cerebral as a center. He's gonna rope Evan Mobley into fouls. He's gonna rope Allen into trying to get him away from the 3-point, get him away from the paint by stretching the floor and things of that nature with his ability. So even though Porzingis ain't out there, you still got the bigs that are pulling you away from the paint if you're Mobley and Allen. So it's tough, man. And that's not even including the big play ability of a Jason Tatum. If he's going for 46 or something like that, you're just not beating the Celtics. So, as I said long ago, when they first acquired Drew Holiday, you pretty much gave them the Eastern Conference when you did that, Portland, because now it just soups them up in such a way to where teams like Cleveland, before you did that, they got a chance of beating the Celtics. Now that you've done that, you need the role players to try to match superstar talent or regular all-star talent in order to just beat the Celtics, because they always got an all-star coming at you or two at all times, even when they're sitting people, even when they get in foul trouble, even when somebody gets hurt. They always got all-stars on the floor. So it's like if Max Strus don't play great, Okoro don't play great, LeVert don't play great, you know what I'm saying? They need Dean Wade to come back and be the Dean Wade that he was when they scored 20 points. It's like you need all of those guys to play outside of themselves just to match the talent that's coming at you. And you got to do that against fantastic defense. And you got to do that with a three-point centric offense. On top of that, it's just it's difficult. It's very difficult. And so, as I see it, even without Porzingis out there, I still think there's a series Celtics are likely to take in like 6 games. I think it goes 6. I think Cleveland will grab 2. It's a scrappy bunch of Cleveland Cavaliers. Those all-star guards are going to get the best of those Boston Celtics guards at times. I do expect the Celtics to just kind of blow a game or two based on, quite honestly, not so great coaching and just like amateur strategy, to be honest with you. That's just what it really comes down to. I don't particularly love their coach for their team. They're a win-now team with all the talent in the world, and they should be able to overcome some of that. But Mazzulla he a bit spacey at times. He sometimes he don't focus like he needs to. He's a young coach, year 2, might be a little in over his head, and I think his talent carries him. But if he were coaching a regular team, it would be curtains a lot of the nights. And so that's what I expect. I expect for the Boston Celtics to probably just drop a game off the strength of Mazzulla's mistakes and probably win the rest of those games, or maybe drop one game off Mazzulla and one game off of the strength of a Donovan Mitchell going crazy type game. But that's about as far as I think it can go for the Cleveland Cavaliers. They just in over their head, man. They're in over their head. Now, if injuries were to further occur for the Boston Celtics, you could start to see the series start to kind of even out. You can start seeing where the Cleveland Cavaliers may be able to do something, you know what I mean? But as long as they're currently constructed the way they are, I see too much shooting off the bench, too much defense in the starting lineup, and too many capable centers creating problems on the boards for those twin towers. And when you look at the Cleveland Cavaliers, after you sit down one of those twin towers, you're talking about Tristan Thompson. You're talking about, Max Strus trying to play a little power forward. What's the guy that played for the Philadelphia 76ers? God, I wish his name would come to mind rather quickly, but it's not. But he's the one that's infamous for having a dad bod, looking like a chubby guy. You're going to need him to try to go up against some of these guys. And while he can stretch the floor and he plays hard, this is when you need a bruiser. When you talk about bringing in like a Neemias Queta or dealing with Al Horford or dealing with Sam Hauser, they got some real good conditioned centers. Xavier Tillman, another big body dude that you're going to have to deal with. I just don't see where they're going to match up with those players. That's too much size off of the bench. It's too much shooting off of the bench. Peyton Pritchard, it's a lot that I think Cleveland's got to deal with. And while Caris LeVert, if he elevates his game, off the bench and gives them like 20, 25 points off the bench, you could see them winning that particular game. Jordan Yang is who I was trying to figure out the name of, the dude with the dad bod. He's going to have to really play well in this series. He's going to have to hit his shots. Can't have no off nights for him. He has to elevate his game anytime he's on the floor, just for the Cleveland Cavaliers to really compete with this Boston team. And again, he has to do that while going up against a very good defense. So it's just, you're asking a lot of the Cleveland Cavaliers. You know, this is about as far as it gets for them. Nobody expects for them to beat the Boston Celtics, man. And if they do, it'll be one of the best upsets we've seen. But it's just, this is where it ends. You know, you have a fantastic season and you run into a team like this and you just have to bow out unless a miracle occurs. And miracles have occurred. Don't get it twisted. But I think it will require a lot out of Cleveland, probably more than they're capable of, to overcome what's coming at them when this Boston Celtics team hits the floor, man. It's just too much. But the good thing is they don't have Porzingis out there, and that takes away a lot of what their ceiling is in regards to Boston. So maybe you can steal a game or two early. Maybe you can get that first game in Boston, steal home court, and kind of get a feel for what Boston's doing. Maybe take advantage of Mazzulla early and steal the second game, and then you really can do something with this series. But it's going to require something like that, in my opinion, for the Cleveland Cavaliers to win the series. They're likely going to have to steal both games early, in my opinion, because if you let Boston sense some success early, it could pretty much end the series for me in the way that I see it in my mind's eye. This is too much talent, man. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Derek White playing at this high of a level, Drew Holiday just being defensive and all genius and all that, and then you got Al Horford, his cerebral self. It's just too much, man. It's honestly too much for probably most teams in this league right now, and that's why I expect the Boston Celtics to likely just waltz to the finals, man. I really don't see any competition for them in the Eastern Conference, even with Mazzulla being their coach. They're just going to drag him along, man. So that's what I expect. I expect that. I'm going to give the Cavaliers 2 games because I do think the Cavaliers are a scrappy bunch and they do have the length to create problems. I have a lot of respect for that Twin Tower effect that they have, especially if Allen's coming back healthy and if he plays his best, he can definitely make things very difficult for them. You know, Max Strus and George Niang are strong bench players. You know what I mean? Isaac Okoro, fantastic defensive athlete, definitely can help. So I see enough on the Cleveland Cavaliers to take a game or two from the Boston Celtics, especially with them missing Porzingis and being 2-3 eccentric. Very, very, very volume 3 eccentric. They could have a bad shooting night or two that could play right into the hands of a pretty good defensive and rebounding Cleveland Cavaliers team. But Cleveland's scrappy. Don't get it twisted. They're very scrappy. They probably beat some other teams in this situation. But you run into the buzzsaw of the Boston Celtics, who've won 64 games this season. That is not a fluke. And have had a lot of rest, while the Cleveland Cavaliers have not had any, given the fact their series went to 7 games. So that's really what it is, man. I don't think this really requires too much thought from me. I'll be very surprised if the Cleveland Cavaliers find a way to win this series. I would be happy if they did. As a Laker fan who doesn't want to see Boston get a championship this year, or any year for that matter, I'm always rooting against them. But I don't think it's realistic to expect the Cleveland Cavaliers to win this series. Not at all. I don't see this thing going past 6. And if they get it to 6, that's a lot to be proud of if you're the Cleveland Cavaliers, to be completely honest with you. So that's really what I see there, man. Donovan Mitchell will get you 1. Mazzulla will drop 1, and that should bring you to 2 games. That's what I see there. Boston in 6, and you know, I'd love to be wrong. Hopefully Cleveland can find a way to win this series, but I don't think so. BDL 44. I thank y'all for watching. I'm out.